Coming up on the next edition of Power and Politics, the countdown is on as the Republican presidential hopefuls make a stand on Monday in Iowa. And back home, Governor Ron DeSantis delivers his State of the State address as legislators sort out their priorities going into the next legislative session. Hello and welcome to another edition of Power and Politics. I'm your host, Frank Cipolla. Power and Politics is a weekly unbiased look at the top stories affecting the state of Florida with a special emphasis on the thinking behind the decisions that affect our lives. We again want to say hello to our viewers watching throughout the state, including stations in Orlando, Miami, Tampa, Gainesville, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Panama City, and Pensacola. If you want to join the conversation, we invite you to email us at info@powerandpolitics.tv. I am joined today, as I am every week, by my co-host, Emmy award-winning political and clinical psychologist, Dr. Bart Rossi. Doctor, welcome.
Great to be here, Frank.
As you know, the Republican presidential candidates have descended on Iowa and continue to do so today on this, the eve of the pivotal Iowa caucuses. The caucuses will determine who will be the first candidate to score a victory in the primaries. Expectations are high for former President Donald Trump, even as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley close in. Okay, so the polls, Doctor, show that Donald Trump is way ahead. Polls are polls. They're not votes. So what do you see this shaking out? How do you see this shaking out?
Well, anything can happen, Frank, because Iowa's a little different. It's a caucus state, which means that people are meeting in their homes, living rooms, schools, churches, and they're talking about the candidates until the last minute. So anything can happen. I lived in Iowa. I played some baseball out there. And I really think that a lot of dynamics can come into play here. So there could be a surprise. There have been surprises. And the governor of Florida needs a big surprise.
And we are going to touch on that in just a moment. But let's talk about Donald Trump for a moment. If his victory, margin of victory, assuming the polls are correct, is not as large as everyone believes it to be, does he go into New Hampshire diminished?
Yes. And I think that Donald Trump knows that he needs a good showing in Iowa because Nikki Haley is gaining in New Hampshire. And actually Christie is even gaining in New Hampshire. So there's a lot at play here on Monday with the caucus.
Conversely, if it's one of those 50 or 60% wins, is that the end of it for everyone else?
It could be, but Nikki Haley has a chance to really shine in New Hampshire, and then it goes to South Carolina, and that's her home state. So she's still in play. It's more like Governor DeSantis is the real person here in play right now.
All right, and Governor DeSantis this week delivered his State of the State address. It was 35 minutes in length. A lot of it was more of a campaign speech, and then he was back to Iowa. Last year at this time, he was the toast of the town. The Florida legislature was getting their direction from Governor DeSantis in a way, and they were following along. There's been some pushback now because he's seen maybe not as the candidate he should be. Does he go on, if the polls are correct and anything can happen, we know that. Does he continue beyond Iowa if it's a poor showing?
Well, let me just say, Frank, what a Republican pollster said. A Republican said that, well, he spent $160 million on the campaign, and he did visit all 99 counties in this state. Okay, that's a lot of counties, all right? A lot of traveling. So if he doesn't do well, the pollster said, what does that say about his personality, and what does that say about his candidacy? And I think that's a big question mark as we go forward here.
We have touched on his personality. I think it's fair to say that the good governor from the great state of Florida does not have the ability to connect as some past politicians have, I mean on a one-on-one level. Does he come back to this state? And again, anything could happen. We're just speculating at this point. But if it's a poor showing in New Hampshire, does he come back to the state of Florida for his last few years as governor, humbled or vindictive?
Well, you're bringing up a big question. I think right, you are throwing a big question out here because that's really a whole other show. I think what happens when he comes back to Florida, his policies are going to be challenged on abortion, on guns, on a lot of other things. Women are concerned about a lot of the rules and the laws that are being passed. it's going to be a different road for him when he comes back.
All right. And by vindictive, I mean, does he come back angry?
At the very least, as a psychologist, he's going to come back very frustrated.
Okay. All right. Time now for one of our regular segments, a commentary from Dr. Bart Rossi that we call the Rossi Rant.
And Frank, today I'd like to talk about something that everyone speaks about, and that's mental health in America, okay? And I'd like to start off by saying, on a positive side, what I call the positive side, people talk about, relaxing, going sailing, enjoying the beach, going in the water. That's a positive sign, and more psychologists say you need to take care of your mental health. Go on a nice sail, go on a sailboat, go to the beach, But on the other side of mental health, we have serious problems in America. We have kids that are depressed, kids that are angry, frustrated, being bullied. So we have a multitude of problems in this country, and of course we have shootings where people are extremely problematic. So my suggestion is this. We have programming in middle school, and we have programming in high school. Basic psychology, which helps kids deal with being bullied and problems. We start right at the beginning with kids in school, okay? And also at the federal level, I think we need to have a secretary of mental health so that mental health can then be integrated into overall health care.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Coming up, we address the pros and cons of the likely Democratic presidential candidates this year and what the race might look like on the Democratic side when Power in Politics continues.
Discover excellence in video production with ITZ Media Group, the leading choice in Florida for corporate, commercial, documentary, and reality TV show marketing. We do more than make videos. We deliver cinematic experiences with reliable results. If you need a turnkey solution that elevates your brand, contact ITZ Media Group today at 239-573-1111 or visit us online at itzmediagroup.com.
Need a marketing agency to help you take care of business? Visit Quinzel.com. Our clients get more customers.
Welcome back to Power in Politics. I'm Frank Cipolla, joined by my co-host, political psychologist Dr. Bart Rossi. The popular phrase, age is just a number, seems to be embraced by most members of Congress, along with our current presidential frontrunners. President Biden, as you know, is 81. Former President Donald Trump is 77. And if they are their party's chosen candidates, we'll be choosing between the country's oldest serving president and its second oldest president. So, Doctor, how did we get here? I'm going to talk about this in my commentary, but how is it we have two presidential candidates who are the front runners, if the polls are to be believed, who are older?
I think as a psychologist, I agree with most Americans. I think they're both too old. They both have made mistakes on the trail. They're problematic in how they present themselves, both of them, Trump and Biden. I think that they're having problems at time actually being themselves and presenting what they stand for. Their messaging on both sides is sometimes awkward, and the optics, let's use the word optics, not so good for American public.
I was going to mention visuals. You said optics, same thing. We have a president, and, it's not a job where he has to dress up and go to a construction site. It's not manual labor. It's what's in his head, the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience of his lifetime. But, when we see him tripping over a sandbag on stage or stumbling on the steps of Air Force One, and even in the way in which he walks, it seems a little awkward, and that could probably be traced back to when he hurt his ankle and he tripped over his dog. But, he doesn't look, and I'm just talking about visuals now, as the robust candidate to represent the party.
Well, he certainly could be more dynamic. He has a problem sometimes presenting himself, okay? But what he has to do is really be able to present who he is reasonably well. He doesn't have to be perfect. And more importantly, what he stands for. His personality is certainly not that dynamic, but what he stands for is going to make the difference in this election for him and for the Democrats. For example, he's got to stand up on abortion. He's pro-choice. He's got to stand up for gun control, climate change, mental health in America. He's got to say what he's for, and he has to deliver it with some energy and presence.
And you, as a psychologist, you don't think he's doing that?
He needs to be better at it. I think his speeches obviously are pretty good. A lot of his speeches are pretty good, but it's the interaction every day that people see that makes it somewhat problematic and awkward.
Now, when we have a close race like we did in 2020, where some states were decided by just a few thousand votes here, a few thousand votes here, and then you have Robert Kennedy Jr. running, Cornel West running, Jill Stein running, that might siphon off those key votes for the Democrats. Yeah. What is the psychology behind them running when they know they probably do not have a chance of getting the nomination?
You know, Frank, that's somewhat of a mystery to me, but I think that they want to make a statement, and they want to make a statement as a third-party candidate, even if they realize that they're not going to win. They want to have the press, the media attention, so that if you're a member of the Green Party, for example, you want to be able to present environmental issues and at least be out there. You may be a loser, but you're going to present your view.
Now, you've talked about you think both candidates are a bit too old to be president. And again, it's something I'll talk about in my commentary. But what does the average American see when they see two older gentlemen running for president? What psychology, what in their mind is it saying to them?
Well, actually, you know, Frank, I'm an expert on the Alzheimer's disease, and how that's affected America. You know, my business was mental health in nursing homes. And I think, to answer your question, a lot of the public thinks about that when they see older people.
You've worked with geriatric clients over the years.
Yes.
Is it safe to say that as you get older, you lose some of that cognitive ability?
There's a perception that it could happen. And I do think that age is a factor, and there should be a better requirement for the age.
We have about 30 seconds left. Are you surprised that there have been no other viable candidates, serious candidates, to challenge President Biden in the primary?
Yes. I think that a young, progressive candidate, someone who, again, who's pro-choice, you know, pro-gun control, someone who's really big into climate change and a youthful look.
Well, time will tell.
Again,
we'll find out in a few weeks. We're going to take a break now. When we come back, the always popular segment, Sunshine or Showers, when Power and Politics continues.
Experience an unforgettable Everglades adventure with Captain Jack's Total Everglades Combo Package. Begin with a thrilling airboat ride through twisting mangrove tunnels in Everglades City. Next, continue your airboat experience at Wooten's private 259-acre reserve. Get your adrenaline pumping as you glide through wide-open glades. Take a swamp buggy tour through grasslands, a cypress forest, and manatee pond. Learn about Everglades folklore and history as you try to spot wild alligators, birds, and other animals. Watch a live alligator show with a professional handler and hold your own baby alligator. See alligators, tigers, lions, otters, and other rescued animals in our sanctuary. Enjoy refreshments in our gift shop and take a piece of the Everglades home with you. Captain Jack's is fun for people of all ages and is open 365 days a year.
Welcome back to Power and Politics. As you know, the weather can change in an instant in Florida, so every week we span the state to find out who enjoyed some sunshine and who needed an umbrella. It's time now for our popular segment, Sunshine or Showers. Okay, we start with you. Who is in the sunshine this week?
Well, Frank, I have law enforcement here in Florida, local and federal law enforcement, and also a lot of local citizens who were engaged in finding these three individuals who beat up police officers on January 6th. They've been hiding for 3 years. Nobody seemed to be able to find them. And finally, law enforcement, with the help of some citizens and a lot of work, they found these people who were actually beating up on officers on January 6th. I think it's a really good thing. They should be recognized because we just don't want that. We want our law enforcement to be tenacious, and they were.
Okay, so they're in the sunshine.
Definitely.
All right, so in the sunshine this week, I have Congressman and Speaker Mike Johnson and Senator Chuck Schumer, the Senate president. You know, there's so much acrimony in Washington, and you know this. I mean, you read about it every single day. But they actually got together, putting all of that aside, and did some old-fashioned bipartisan work and came up with a budget deal that might avert a government shutdown. Now, it's not a done deal. We'll have to see what happens in the days ahead. There are some Congress people who are not for it, so the votes are always tight in the U.S. House of Representatives. But at least they got together. At least they put everything aside, sat down. So Congressman and Speaker Mike Johnson and also Senator Chuck Schumer, they are in the sunshine for me this week.
A step in the right direction.
A step in, thank you, Doctor. Well put. Well, you're the psychologist. A step in the right direction. All right, so now it's time for the showers, because with every sunny day, there are some showers.
Well, Frank, in the showers, there's State Representative Bobby Payne from Palatka, okay, Florida. And he wants to pass a law that allows 18-year-olds to buy guns. Right now, the law is 21. And I think this is a terrible idea. I think we should be going in the other direction, having really good, progressive, and positive, law enforcement, on guns. We need more control over guns, not less.
So, just so I'm clear here, you can buy a gun in Florida, and he wants to lower the age to 18.
That's right.
And it's, this is after all the shootings we have seen in Florida, so obviously this goes against, and we've talked about this on the show before. The polls show that the vast majority of Floridians, as well as folks in the United States, want some sort of gun control or some sort of way in which we can gauge these things. And
I've been a former gun owner, very big into archery, Frank, and I just think we need responsible gun control. This is going the other direction and against most voters.
All right. So they are in, or he is in the showers.
Definitely.
Mine is very easy this week.
Okay.
And we're going to chat about this a little bit. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, as you know, is suffering from prostate cancer, but he just disappeared. Now, he's got a lot of blowback. He was gone for a few days. They didn't know where he was. They finally found out he was in the hospital. Whether you're the Secretary of Defense, which is a really important job, especially with the ongoing unrest in the Middle East, with what's going on in Ukraine and so on, if you are the Secretary of Defense, what does it take to make a phone call to the president and say, I will be out a few days, and my second in command or my third in command will be filling in for me? Why in the world would you do something like that? Doctor, again, I'm leaning on the psychologist, the political psychologist, Dr. Bart. Why would you do that?
This is a situation, Frank, where your own personal frame of reference, your own personality overrides common sense. Because he's thinking that he really wants his own privacy at a time when he can't have his own privacy. He's thinking about himself and what he thinks about himself, how he thinks about himself. He's going back and forth with that. And in the meantime, he's not making any sense out of it. And it's really bad play, really, in his part.
Well, it's not like he's working in retail and he's taking a few days off.
Yeah.
It's not like he's the second in command or third in command of the Defense Department. He is the Defense Secretary. Again, I ask you, and this is why probably out of all the people we have put in the showers over the years, he deserves it more than any. He's going to be drenched. And we taped the show earlier in the week, so by the time this comes on, he might be gone, and we don't know. But just to review, what does it take to make that phone call? Yes, I don't want to talk about my private health issues, but you don't have to. You could call the president and tell him and tell your second in command and disappear for a few days. You just can't disappear.
Well, Frank, a friend of mine has said recently that, sometimes logic is not in play. Logic is not in style. And he was not logical, not sensible. This is something that's a real problem, and it needs to be addressed as we go forward here.
He's not only in the showers, but as I mentioned a moment ago, he's drenched this week.
He deserves the showers.
And showers. Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Before we head to a commercial break, we want to let our friends in the Florida Panhandle and elsewhere know that our thoughts are with you as you recover from this week's terrible storm. The storm caused extensive damage in the Panhandle and northern parts of the state. When we return, a commentary by yours truly titled, Let's Be Frank, when Power and Politics continues.
Need a marketing agency to help you take care of business? Visit Quinzel.com. Our clients get more customers.
Discover excellence in video production with ITZ Media Group, the leading choice in Florida for corporate, commercial, documentary, and reality TV show marketing. We do more than make videos. We deliver cinematic experiences with reliable results. If you need a turnkey solution that elevates your brand, contact ITZ Media Group today at 239-573-1111 or visit us online at itzmediagroup.com.
Welcome back. World War II ended almost 80 years ago. Since then, we have seen the baby boomers grow to be senior citizens. We've seen the explosion of the millennial generation, who now outnumber baby boomers, as well as the emergence of Gen X and Gen Z. So it seems odd that here we are in 2024, and if the polls are correct, we'll be choosing from two presidential candidates who were born during World War II or right after World War II. The question is, why? It should be a rite of passage. One generation hands off the world as it is to the next generation. But the baby boomers don't seem to want to let go. It seems crazy that members of Congress and other elected officials knowingly serve well past their prime. Strom Thurmond was 101 years old when he retired from the Senate. The late Senator Dianne Feinstein stuck around until her passing at the age of 90. Current Senator Charles Grassley is 90. Senator Bernie Sanders is 82. Now, before I get nasty emails, many of you watching right now may be older Americans who remain active in mind and body, and I applaud you. I am also a baby boomer, so I speak from experience. But since we have rules that say you have to be over 35 to be president, should we have rules limiting the age of a president on the back end? There is nothing wrong with an elected official, when the time comes, leaving a position with dignity and grace. We have no idea what will happen in this election cycle, but it is my fervent hope that a new generation of candidates bubble up now or in 2028. Those who can speak to a world that is more complicated and more technologically advanced with each passing moment. Somewhere in the current crop of 79 million millennials, there are likely 2 or 3 fine presidents and maybe even the nation's first female president. Let's hope now, or next time around, they get a chance to show us what they've got. Dr. Rossi, you have the last word.
Frank, I think we do need a new generation, okay? And it's not only the millennials. I think what's going to happen is that there will be a big change in America, and it's the Z generation. I think they're going to be responsible for big change in the United States.
Interesting point. All right, we'll be right back.
Need a marketing agency to help you take care of business? Visit Quinzel.com. Our clients get more customers.
Getting the word out about your business takes marketing. And while any business person can place an ad online or elsewhere, being interviewed by your local TV or radio reporter or anchor instantly brands you the expert. Contacts Media was founded by an on-air news veteran of 40 years who worked in the nation's #1 media market. He and his team have the knowledge and contacts to get you booked locally and in other major markets. For more information, visit Contacts Media today at contactsmedia.com.
That's it for this week's edition of Power and Politics. On behalf of my co-host, political psychologist Dr. Bart Rossi, and all the fine folks working behind the scenes, thanks for joining us. As always, we'd like to know what you think. Visit us at powerandpolitics.tv or email us at info@powerandpolitics.tv. See you next time.